Hello everyone and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris, coming to you from Rome. As 2011 draws to a close and 2012 appears on the horizon, many will begin to reflect back on a hugely significant event that occurred here in Rome 50 years ago, the opening of the Second Vatican Council. Yep, 50 years have passed since Blessed Pope John XXIII gave his introduction before the Council Fathers, which for me personally is kind of significant because I just recently turned 50, so I and many other Catholics can rightly be called literally the children of Vatican II. We were born when the Council began, and now we have come to full bloom. So I'd actually like to do some personal reflection as a Catholic who was born as the Council began and grew up in the Catholic world which developed in its shadow. I have no recollection, no living memory of the Church before Vatican II. While I was an infant in my father's arms at the traditional Latin Mass, I spent most of my time at it, being carried from it, for wailing and fussing and crying. At least that's what my mom and dad have told me. My brother, however, who is exactly 7 years older than me, same birthday, 7 years apart, was an altar boy. Not an altar server, but an altar boy who never served anything other than the Latin Mass. So in the 7 short years between us, an enormous change occurred. By the time I came to serve Mass as an altar boy, the Mass looked almost nothing like what my brother had grown up with. There were some holdover elements that hadn't totally been gotten rid of yet: incense, cassock and surplice, reception of the body and blood of our blessed Lord on the tongue while kneeling at the communion rail. We altar boys, who are now 50, remember that fact clearly because we had to hold the patens under the people's chins, and almost everyone genuflected going in and out of the pews. And so did we every time and I mean every time, we and all the other altar boys crossed in front of the tabernacle, which, by the way, was in the center of the sanctuary. But during my time as an altar boy, the change was in full force. First, Sister Bernadette, a lovely and demanding nun who was in her habit, began teaching us, the altar boys, about the sign of peace. This was when I was in 3rd grade. We were told that when the time came for the sign of peace, we would walk up to the priest at the altar, who would in turn turn to us, extend the sign of peace to each of us individually. Then we, the altar boys, were to go out of the sanctuary and down the main aisle, and pew by pew, processing from front to back, very orderly, extend the shake. Then that person on the aisle would then turn to the person next to them and pass it on, and so forth and so forth. So that way, it was very clear that the peace originated from the sanctuary, from Christ. Well, it took about 6 months before that went out the window, and the sign of peace had devolved into the near chaos that it is today, where the peace comes not from the sanctuary, but from each other, not from God, but from man. And I know because I was there. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. By the time those of us who are 50 years old had matriculated from 3rd grade to high school, we saw the nuns' habits go from near the floor to above the knees to out into the trash. Of course, we also saw them leave in droves. I know. I was there. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. Then there were the stories that were being whispered about Father Jim and Father Walsh running off and getting married to some women after just not showing up one day for morning Mass. I know. I was there. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. This vortex is not about a listing of a series of woes that occurred after Vatican II. It's about showing how what happened after Vatican II began paving the way for the deeply wounded church we see today. These first small changes were nothing more than precursors of a huge storm that had already begun to break upon the church. Within a few short years of that sign of peace stuff, our cassocks and surplices had been switched out one Sunday for those droll, unceremonious white bed sheets with the hoods and a little rope tied around the middle. We just stopped using incense one Sunday. Suddenly, a few Sundays later, half the people were sticking their hands out to get the bread, and our job with the patens became virtually unnecessary. We were downsized as altar boys before being downsized was fashionable, and this all happened before having reached puberty. Of course, what was happening to us altar boys was just one symptom of the larger darkness that was descending on the church, a darkness that robbed us of our heritage, took it away from us as we were essentially babies. These modernists literally took the candy of the Catholic faith out of the mouth of babies. Before my time on the altar was over, we had gone from singing Immaculate Mary and Holy God, we praise thy name, to hit numbers from Godspell and Jesus Christ Superstar, and of course, the Protestant national anthem, Amazing Grace. It was Catholic. If it was Catholic, it was out the door and anything else was welcome. Protestant, secular, whatever, just not Catholic. Talk about Irish need not apply. All the while, our heads were spinning, we now 50-year-olds. Organs were out, guitars and tambourines were in. I know. I was there. I saw it with my own two eyes. I, like everyone else who is 50 in the church, were actual witnesses to this in the sense that we grew up with all of these changes right along beside them. People older than 50 saw the so-called old church. People under 50 have no understanding of those former days for the most part, and that includes converts, God bless them. But we, roughly 50-year-olds, are the actual witnesses to it, the first children of Vatican II, the eldest sons and daughters of the Second Vatican Council. And we have some things to say, and we will be saying them all this week from Rome, where the eve of the 50th anniversary of Vatican II is about to descend. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.